Whether you're a newbie coming into crypto for the first time and don't know where to start, or you're a seasoned veteran who's looking to increase your security, choosing a crypto wallet can be a really challenging decision. You'll hear people talking about custodial wallets versus non-custodial, hardware wallets, software wallets, exchanges, and everyone is keen to sell you their product or approach, and often isn't upfront about what some of the shortcomings and challenges and disadvantages can be. So basically what I'm going to do in this video is just run through how to choose a crypto wallet. And the way I'm going to do that is to actually spend a bit of time talking about, what is actually the anatomy of a crypto wallet? What are all the pieces that fit together to make it work? And then spend a bit of time looking at how these pieces come together in different ways on different types of crypto wallets and what some examples of those wallets are. And if you haven't already done so, hit subscribe, and that way you can stay in the loop for content I make to help you find your way in the crazy and often hostile environment that is cryptocurrency. So the first building block that's important to understand in terms of how your crypto wallet works is private keys. The unique cryptographic secrets, so there's no duplicates on any crypto network, and they're also secret because whoever has these private keys can send transactions and spend currency that is associated with those keys. There is no sense of ownership or verified ownership or anything like that in cryptocurrency. It all comes down to who has the private keys. And that's why you hear the saying, not your keys, not your coins. And we'll talk about that more and how that applies to different types of crypto wallets later. So the second building block that all your crypto wallets will have is some sort of wallet interface. What this looks like can vary dramatically between platforms, but generally speaking, for the purpose of this video, we'll talk about the wallet interface as the software that you use to be able to view the different balances that you would have for different cryptocurrencies, and also the software you could use to create transactions, though not necessarily the software that will be signing the transactions, and we'll talk about that more later. This might be something that's on your PC, it might be something on your smartphone, it might be something in a web page. The next thing I'll talk about is nodes. So if you hang around the cryptocurrency space for very long, you'll hear people talking about things like peer-to-peer, decentralized, and stuff like that. And what people mean by this is essentially the nodes. That is a bunch of specialized servers running special software that essentially stores and shares all of the past transactions on that network. For things like Bitcoin, they'll be using a blockchain for that, and different crypto networks will do that in slightly different ways, but the principle is the same for all of them. They are what enables your wallet interface to know what the balance is for a certain address. Every single time you open a crypto wallet and see a balance of any kind, there's a node somewhere behind the scenes that is querying the blockchain and telling your wallet interface what that balance is. The other important building block to understanding your wallet is the consensus network. Now, this is the peer-to-peer network of nodes. And basically what these consensus networks do is they will distribute valid transactions across the network and reject invalid ones. There'll also be a way in which the consensus network collectively chooses to incorporate valid transactions into the permanent record. And in Bitcoin, that process is called mining. That allows them to be stored and verified by any node as part of the blockchain. And again, the way that transactions get included into this permanent record changes a little bit from network to network, but the general principle is still the same. There's a sense in which no one is in charge of these networks. No one can force node operators to run a particular version of software, but at the same time, if someone tries to run a node that wants to enforce a different set of rules or maybe cheat in some way, then it will simply be rejected by the rest of the network. So to understand how these building blocks come together in different types of cryptocurrency wallets, what I'm going to look at is a typical exchange or custodial wallet, look at a light wallet, a hardware wallet, as well as just running a full node and using that as your wallet. So first we'll look at how all these building blocks come together in a typical exchange. And that's something like Coinbase, Binance, Kraken, crypto.com. So how this picture works is I've highlighted the green stuff as things that you control and the yellow stuff as things that you're trusting someone else to run. So in this example, basically you can see that the web browser is yours, but that could also be an app or something like that. And the exchange then are responsible for holding all of the private keys, and they are responsible for running all of the nodes that communicate with all the different decentralized consensus networks. And the exchange will also run some servers that give you things like a pretty website, a trading platform, a wallet interface, and they will also be responsible for user authentication. So on an exchange, you don't have to worry about any of those things. You just get given a username and password that you use to interact with all of the services the exchange has. The advantage of using an exchange like this are that they are really easy to use. You just need to create an account and you're ready to go. Exchanges are also the main way that people convert, say, dollars into crypto or withdraw crypto back to dollars the other way. Exchanges are also the place where you can trade backwards and forwards between multiple different cryptocurrencies in a really seamless sort of way. And increasingly, exchanges are starting to offer incentives for keeping your crypto on that exchange. And there are a number of exchanges now that are starting to offer like staking programs and things like that, and to offer all sorts of incentives to leave large amounts of your crypto with them. The single biggest disadvantage with exchanges and custodial wallets is 100% trust is required. There is no recovery whatsoever if something goes wrong. If the exchange just disappears tomorrow and takes all your funds with it, if they decide to lock your account, or any of these sorts of things, then you have no ability to recover your funds at all. And this disadvantage, coupled with the ease of use, is why custodial wallets and fake exchanges are an absolute favorite for scammers. And we just have to look at things like Plus Token, Cloud Token Wallet, or even Staked Wallet seems to be one that's just popped up recently. They're all classic examples of scams that essentially package together what looks like an exchange, what looks like a custodial wallet, and will offer these really crazy high incentives and rewards to users, but then disappear overnight, take everyone's money, and run. But all of that said, who is this kind of wallet for? Well, basically, using your exchange or a custodial wallet is for newbies. It's for people who have no idea and are only just starting to come into the crypto space. Perhaps they're doing their first purchase of crypto ever and have no idea how to securely store it or anything like that. Keeping it on exchange can actually be a good first step. The other kinds of people who will want to keep money on exchanges are traders. People who are wanting to actively try and day trade and all these kinds of things. While these days there are sort of instant exchanges available where you just send the crypto there, they exchange it and send it back, things like Changely, Shapeshift and whatever, their fees do tend to be a lot higher than things like Binance and Coinbase and all that sort of stuff. So people who are trying to make money off trading and do lots of trades will be far better served leaving those funds on an exchange. The other category of people who might want to leave their funds entrusted to someone else are actually corporate entities who might be required to do so just because of the legislative environment that they are operating in. And this is a big part of why we're increasingly seeing these kinds of corporate custody services being offered within the space. The next major type of wallet would be what I'm calling a typical light wallet. Some examples of light wallets are things like Electrum, myetherwallet, coinomi, jaxx, Exodus, those kinds of things. And we can see here that in a light wallet, you control your software. It might be browser-based, it might be an app, it might be something else, but you control the private keys. They don't live on the exchange. They don't live with the wallet provider. You are responsible for them. The wallet provider will be the ones who run the nodes and have the full copy of the blockchain. And basically what they will do is their software will only send the bits of that are needed to your wallet. And just like an exchange, a typical light wallet can connect to multiple different crypto networks all at the same time, but present these to you in a single unified interface, meaning you can just have one wallet that you use to interact with all of these different networks. So a big advantage of these light wallets is they have an instantaneous startup. I can just download something like Coinomi, I can create a new wallet and I can use it straight away. I don't need to wait for any blockchains to sync at all. I can just start using it right away. The other big advantage with these light wallets is you're holding your own keys, in that if I have my BIP39 seed, it actually doesn't matter if Coinomi or any other service just disappears. I can import that seed into another wallet and keep using it over there. The other reason why light wallets are so popular is that they can run on low-powered devices. Just like an exchange, you can interact with these things just through a web page, something like myetherwallet. Your device doesn't have to deal with the entire blockchain and consensus network, so it doesn't actually need a powerful CPU, a lot of bandwidth, or any stuff like that. The disadvantage with a light wallet, especially if you're running it as a software wallet, is that it is a hot wallet, in that the private keys are still stored in the software. So things like bugs in the software or malware mean that you could experience a loss of funds. The other disadvantage with these light wallets is you're sending all the information about your addresses and the IP and things like that you're using to access the service to the wallet vendor. And most wallet vendors say they don't log and sell this stuff, but the reality is they could. And the other disadvantage with these light wallets is the sense in which you are trusting the wallet vendor to be truthful about the state of the consensus network. And for example, that might mean you're trusting that they are reporting an accurate balance. And this doesn't just have to be about a wallet vendor like maliciously telling you the wrong thing. It could simply be the node software that is running on their servers is lagging behind the blockchain for whatever reason, or has crashed or something like that, which means that your light wallet may not be showing you what is currently the real balance as far as the consensus network is concerned. So if you're ever in a situation where you're receiving like a substantial amount of money, you might not want to simply trust the balance that's being displayed in your Lite wallet before you are happy that you've been paid. So who is this for? Lite wallets are probably going to be the best match for what most users need, as long as they are only storing smaller amounts of crypto. If you're someone who has a larger amount of crypto, then you can move on to a hardware wallet. Examples of this would be like a Ledger Nano, a keepkey, a Trezor, or a coldcard. And you'll see that a hardware wallet is essentially like a special kind of light wallet, in that it shares basically everything in common with a light wallet, except the private keys aren't simply stored in the same piece of software that you are using as your wallet interface. The private keys live in a separate device that has been deliberately made to be very simple, to only have a very basic set of functionality, a very low-end hardware, and the private keys never leave the hardware wallet. If we just look at the example of how this works with a ledger, you have your private keys that will live on your Ledger Nano, and then your wallet interface is basically Ledger Live. So Ledger Live is the software that you will use to be able to see the balances of all your different currencies. Ledger Live gets those balances from basically querying a whole bunch of servers in at Ledger. Ledger are running full nodes and a bit of software for every single cryptocurrency that you can see in Ledger Live. And if you want to then send a transaction, Ledger Live will create sort of the unsigned, that is like a draft transaction for you. It will then ask you to connect your Ledger Nano, where it will send that unsigned transaction to the ledger. You will then be shown the details of that transaction on the ledger's screen. And if you're happy that all of those details are correct, you can then confirm that transaction on the hardware wallet, and then only the signed transaction is sent back to Ledger Live. The private keys themselves never leave this device. Hardware wallets, when they're working this way, are great, and they have all of the advantages of a light wallet. And the keys are stored offline and are safe from malware. So it doesn't matter if your PC, your network, and even the wallet software you're using are all malicious and infected with viruses. You can verify the transaction details on the screen itself and only approve that which is correct, because the wallet software can't tamper with a signed transaction in any way, otherwise the network will reject it. Some of the disadvantages of hardware wallets are that when you use them in this way, you are sharing information about all the addresses that belong to your wallet with the hardware wallet vendor. And like with a light wallet, you're then trusting the hardware wallet vendor to give you the correct balances for all the different cryptos that you have. The other disadvantage with hardware wallets is that there is still possible vendor lock-in, in that there are some vendors, BC Vault is one of them, who don't use things like BIP39 passphrases and make it really difficult to move your crypto from one wallet to another. Whereas mainstream wallets like a Ledger or a Trezor use something called BIP39, which means you can just import your seed phrase from a Ledger into a Trezor, and it'll just keep working as though nothing has happened. Again, I think hardware wallets are a great option for the majority of users, and I think anyone who has larger crypto holdings, and people ask me all the time about that, and I would say if you have more than $1,000 worth of crypto, it's really time to start looking at getting a hardware wallet. If you're not sure which one to buy, I've actually put together like a detailed feature comparison of lots of different wallets. And if you'd like to help me out at the same time, the links on that comparison website, as well as some of the links in the description, are affiliate links, which mean I get a few bucks for everyone who buys a hardware wallet using those links. There are also some special cases that I might just mention. That is, if you have a decent hardware wallet, you can actually use it with third-party wallet software. If you're an advanced user, you can actually use these hardware wallets in a way that they never ever share anything about your balances or addresses or anything like that with the hardware wallet vendor. Likewise, you don't have to trust that their software isn't doing malicious things like sharing your private keys back to the vendor, keeping logs about you, or anything else like that. The other thing you can do if you're an enthusiast is bring together the benefits of running a full node with the benefits of running a light wallet, in that you can actually run your own full node and your own Electrum server, and then use your own Electrum software interface with your hardware wallet. So you can run all of the different components of this on your own hardware and still have the convenience and security of using a light wallet or using something like mycelium on your phone, while still keeping all your keys offline in a hardware wallet. The opposite of storing all your crypto on an exchange or in a custodial wallet is to run a full node wallet. And this is something like, Bitcoin Core. And just about every cryptocurrency will have, an official core wallet where you have to download the whole blockchain. And the thing with using these wallets is one piece of software controls everything. Bitcoin Core as a piece of software is your interface to your wallet. It's what you use to craft transactions, to send them, to see your balance. It stores your private keys, and it also keeps a copy of the blockchain locally. and communicates directly with the rest of the consensus network. The big advantage of this kind of software setup is you're fully independent. You're controlling your own private keys. You're not trusting anyone else to do that. You're also keeping your own copy of consensus. So you're not trusting anyone else to tell you what the balance of your crypto wallet is. It's also the most private type of wallet in that you're not sharing with anybody else which addresses belong to you. The other advantage with running full node software is you're participating in the network consensus, in that there will be times for different cryptocurrencies where there are sort of contentious hard forks, and there's a sense in which by choosing which set of consensus rules that you want your node to enforce, that you're essentially voting for what you want the consensus network rules to be for the whole network. Because at the end of the day, no one can force you to run a specific version of your node software. The only question in that situation is whether enough other node operators agree with what your definition of the consensus rules are for your node to still work properly. There are, however, some big disadvantages from running your own node software. And the biggest one is that you need to download all transactions before the wallet software is really usable. So you might also need to store a full copy of that as well. With Bitcoin, this means that you're going to be having to download about 300 gigs worth of content before you can really use that wallet in any meaningful way. And while you can run a pruned node that won't store the entire copy of the blockchain, you'll still need to download all of it at least once. The other big disadvantage of using one of these full node software wallets as your wallet is that it is what is called a hot wallet. So all your private keys and everything are all stored in that one piece of software that is running on your internet connected computer. And that can make these a great target for hackers, malware, and that kind of thing. Though it's important to say it doesn't have to be that way, and there is work being done, particularly in Bitcoin Core, with something called HWI that allows hardware wallets to be used directly with these core nodes, and that will eventually find its way into all the other sorts of altcoins eventually as well. The other big disadvantage of running a full node is depending on the crypto network that you're trying to be part of, you may need a fairly high-powered PC and a lot of bandwidth to be able to even keep up with the rest of the network, in that different networks with different block sizes, block times, and different levels of complexity will have very different requirements of what the node needs. And so who is this sort of wallet for? Well, basically, this is for developers, so people who are quite happy to interact with their wallet via the command line and to do sort of non-standard kinds of things. It's also for merchants. If you're a business who's processing lots and lots of inbound transactions and want to make sure that you're not being deceived in terms of what your balance is, running your own node can be an important part of that. And the other people that full nodes are for is enthusiasts. And in there, I would lump in anyone who's like really concerned with privacy, anyone who's really concerned with security, and are prepared to put in the extra work to make that happen. But generally, for most users, a full node is probably not the software you're going to want to use. The other thing people often ask me about is paper wallets. And paper wallets really are very similar to this situation of using a hardware wallet with Electrum, in the sense that if you have a paper wallet, especially if you have like a BIP39 or Electrum seed based offline paper wallet, that you're essentially duplicating the functionality of a hardware wallet in a very manual but free way. Though the biggest catch with using paper wallets and doing offline signing and things like this is, especially if you're a newbie, there's a lot of things that you are then responsible for not stuffing up. Whereas one of the advantages of having a hardware wallet is that it kind of has a lot of the best practice and secure environment, things like that, sort of baked into the device and the software that comes with it. Because these days, if you're really wanting to do the sort of paper wallet, offline, never touches the internet sort of thing, your best bet is probably just to use something like a coldcard. So given all of that, there's some important things you need to consider when you're choosing a wallet. Firstly, you need to ask yourself what features are important to you. Are you someone who's very, very concerned with things like privacy? Or are you someone maybe who is more concerned with being able to reset a password if you forget it? How much will you be storing? Are you only storing a small amount of crypto, or are you going to be storing tens of thousands of dollars? How you answer that question is going to change what sort of wallet might be best for you. Perhaps the most important question here is, what are you prepared to be responsible for? This may mean learning a lot about security, about how to do backups, about different types of wallets and how to do all of these things. One of the biggest differences between choosing to hold your own private keys, run your own node, doing all these things, is you are choosing that you want to be responsible for, say, the security of your keys, for your privacy, for knowing what your balance is, rather than trusting someone else to do that. But you might also decide that you don't know enough to be able to take responsibility for those things, that you need to learn something more before you're able to do that. And this is a big part of why I really don't think it's helpful for every single newbie just to jump straight into using the most complicated security scheme they can possibly think up. The last question to consider is, how might this change in the future? If you are in crypto and go away for 2 or 3 years and come back and find that everything is worth 10 times more than what it was, you need to ask yourself, is the wallet that you are storing that crypto on still suitable? While you might have been happy to store, say, $500 just on an exchange, if that's now worth $5,000 or $50,000, are you still happy to trust that exchange to store that? If you're just a newbie starting out, I think probably the best progression to follow is something like this. Start out buying your Bitcoin on an exchange and storing it there. Just start with something small, just so you can understand and get your head around this whole thing with cryptocurrency. And from there, once you've learned a bit about non-custodial wallets, you can move to a light wallet. So you might move to a non-custodial light wallet like Mycelium in this example. If, say, you found yourself then in a situation where you wanted to have more than $1,000 worth of crypto, you might decide it's time to move to a hardware wallet. So you might buy yourself a Ledger Nano and move your Bitcoin onto there. If you decide that as a business you want to start receiving payments in Bitcoin or something like that, or maybe you're expecting to receive a large payment in crypto and you don't want to trust your wallet provider to tell you that the balance is correct and things like that. So you might decide to run your own node, even if you're only using your node as a way to get a trusted balance and transaction history for a particular set of addresses. The next step you might do with an increasing amount of funds is to move some of it into something that is totally offline. So to create a totally cold wallet that is offline and is never connected to a computer or any other internet connected device, even through a hardware wallet. And you might choose to use a cold card, or you might go down the route of creating like an offline signing setup for something like Electrum. The next step after that is moving on to something like multi-sig. And this is something where you might find yourself storing an amount of funds such that you don't want any single wallet or seed or anything like that to be enough for someone to rob you. And you want to instead make it so that someone needs to sign a transaction with, say, 2 out of 3 hardware wallets that you have that all have different seeds, they're all backed up and stored in different ways, and that kind of thing. And it's important to say that multi-sig is definitely very complicated, and it's something you can DIY with something like Electrum, or it's something you can pay for a service like Casa, who specialize in that. But with a multi-sig wallet, you could actually have a mix of hot keys, cold keys, hardware wallets, software wallets, and these could be distributed in different ways geographically, given to different people, all those kinds of things. But the key thing with a multi-sig wallet is once you go down that path, there is no one set of private keys that can be used to access and send your crypto. So there you go. That was fairly long and detailed, but I hope that really helps you to understand some of the real complexity that can happen here with crypto wallets. Helps you to understand the different building blocks that every wallet has, and the way that these come together in different ways for different types of wallets to give you a different mix of convenience, of security, of recoverability, and all of these kinds of things, and help you to better make a decision around what sort of crypto wallet suits your needs the best. Thanks for watching. I hope that was helpful. Hit like if you think that other people would find this video useful, and hit subscribe if you'd like to be kept in the loop about future content I make that helps people stay safe in the crypto space and to recover if they get into trouble. If you have any questions about this video or a topic that you'd like me to cover, just leave a reply.